Hey, loves, it's your girl Mariah Sincere, and I am back with another bomb lunch hour. For those of y'all who are new and just tuning into my channel, I am a self love coach who specializes in helping people radically transform their lives through one on one coaching. I am the proof. I've done it myself. At the beginning of the year, I was in the United States, miserable, depressed. I decided I wanted to move to another country, developed the plan, and in 6 months, I was gone, baby. So I'm coming at y'all live from the beautiful Medellin, Colombia. And guys, we are going to have a good show today. I'm just waiting on some people to get in here. I apologize for my tardiness, but I had to wash my hair. Sorry. I just could not come on here looking any kind of way. Let me check my VPN. Uh, I'm a self love coach who specializes in helping people radically transform their lives. I've done it myself, and I'm coming at y'all live from Medellin, Colombia. So, if you need any type of help with getting your life together, hit me up. I do coaching for $30 an hour. You're not going to find that nowhere. That's one of the reasons why I moved, honestly, because I wanted to be able to help people and not have to hit them over the head. Hey, what's up, D Mally? Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I know y'all thought I was gonna come on today. No, I had to get my hair together, y'all. Like, and even then, it don't look how I want it to look. I didn't have time to straighten it, but that's okay. I had to wash my hair before I came on here. So we're gonna have a good show. I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what we talked about yesterday, but I kind of want to talk about some of the reasons why people are fed up. Oh my god, I should took this gum out my mouth. Should I swallow it? Mm. Tatiana, give me a second, y'all. Yeah. So hey, good morning, Olivia. Can you bring me a piece of paper? Y'all got to get this gum out my mouth. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the migrant crisis that is going on in New York. We're gonna talk about how there's working girls, like y'all know how in Colombia the men come here for the working girls who was selling it for the low. Yeah, that's going on in New York. They raided massage parlors, but honestly and truly, this has been something that's been happening. I want to say over the last 7 years, right? It's like slowly started happening. Even in my city in Dallas, Texas, this was going on where you had these girls kind of coming in desperate situation and selling that cat for $20. But we're gonna talk about it, y'all. Hey, what up, skinny boy? What up? Yep. All right, guys. So go to your room. No. All right, guys. So yeah, we're gonna get into it. Guys, I had some people that was kind of, I guess, irritated. I lost a couple of followers from yesterday, but guess what? You lose some. I appreciate everybody that comes and gives their time, but honestly and truly, if me having an opinion differing from yours, and then I broke it down, it's not like I just came on here just um talking out my butt. Like when I break my reasoning all the way down and you're still too sensitive, then this probably is not going to be the channel for you, because I'm not pandering, or I'm not walking on eggshells for people. Like, if you disagree with me, feel free to disagree. Like, you can give your opinion, right? And I'm open to changing my mind about things. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. The problem with most people is that we will listen to somebody and we want them to think every little single thing we think, and everything is all good while somebody's saying the things that you want to hear. But the moment they say something that's contrary to your views, then all of a sudden you don't really rock with them anymore, or you decide you don't like them as a person, or you don't know how to chew the meat and spit out the bones, if you feel like they got some bones, and you just don't grow like that. And that's why most people are soft, sensitive, and in their feelings. Like, that's why they don't grow, because they're not willing to listen to anybody else. And that's why we have the problems that we have in this country now. Politics make or break a lot of relationships. Yeah, I've seen people get real disrespectful, right? Like, really disrespectful over politics in ways where I've had to remind them, this is not the internet. Like, you got to watch how you talk when you talking to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this back and forth banter that people have on the internet, sometimes they forget themselves in real life. Skin is in the house. Yes. Tread lightly with political talk. Yeah. I think this is gonna be kind of like my last political centered talk. And honestly and truly, if you're really listening to what I'm saying, I'm not pressing any agendas. Like, I want people to be able to reach across the aisle and listen to other people. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this, and it must be said. I'm an immigrant in another country. So we're going to be talking about illegal immigration. I am a legal immigrant here in Colombia. I declared myself when I came to this country. There are certain rules that I have to abide by, and if I don't, I will either get fined or deported. I also want to let it be known that if you are an American citizen, you cannot come to Colombia illegally, right? Because first of all, nobody's walking through Central and South America to cross the border here. And second, you got to fly in. A lot of times you got to show a return flight. And the standard for us being here is high. You have to make significantly more than the average Colombian citizen. You are not coming over here and getting any welfare. They're not even giving their people welfare. So they don't got it to give to you. So if you're going to come here and you're going to stay permanently, you need to be able to prove that you are able to take care of yourself, whether that's working for another company internationally, online, or if you have the credentials to get a job here with the Colombian company, you still need to make a certain amount, and that company needs to make a certain amount in order for them to sponsor a visa for you. Colombian companies prefer to hire other Colombians if they can do the job. But if you have other credentials and you're able to get a job like at a college, or teaching at one of these international schools, I've seen other American immigrants come here and do that. But understand that we don't get any sympathy when we come over here, because people already view us as they blame us for what our government has done to them. Do you understand? So you can't come over here and fall on hard times and people have sympathy and they give you a chance. No, they expect that you have a lot of money coming over here, and a lot of times they're trying to figure out how to get some. And that's not just something that they do to United States citizens. They do that to Colombians who come back from the United States. They do that to their family members who have money. That is just like the culture over here. And the reason why I'm saying it is because a lot of the times there's so much shaming that goes on in the United States for people who say illegal immigration is becoming a problem for XYZ. And you get shamed into feeling like it has to be a free for all, like an all or nothing, when that is not the norm in every other country around the world. You can't just walk up in somebody's country and expect to get assistance in most countries. And if you're an American citizen, that is especially true. The sympathy doesn't go both ways. And for us, it kind of works like, well, we don't control the foreign policy of our government, because that's how they feel. They feel like y'all are responsible for your government's foreign policy choices, and y'all don't stop them or anything like that. So that's why they don't have sympathy for us. Now, we know we don't have much control over that, but I will say they are right in the sense that we don't hold our government responsible enough for foreign policy. So, for example, you got the same people who got mad about what I was saying yesterday, who, they're not holding our government that's in place right now responsible and accountable for all of this billions of dollars worth of aid that has been sent overseas within this 1 year, right? So we really don't hold our government accountable for foreign policy, but a lot of times it's because we just don't know, or we're too busy, or we're caught up in culture war issues, and we're too distracted to pay attention to the economics that's going on. So a lot of people don't understand that, and they blame us for that. So just know, when you go abroad as an American citizen, nobody has sympathy for you. Before you get mad about some of the things that I'm about to say. I'm an introvert now because I don't like biting my tongue around people. Yeah, I have to like just be quiet, again, and I don't mind having open discussion. It's that I know people get too disrespectful in person, But anyway, now with that said, I want to add some nuance to this. If it were me, if I were living in a country where I felt like my child did not have opportunity, and I felt like my child could have a better opportunity somewhere else, I would absolutely 1000% go there, especially if they were promising me aid, especially if some of those cities within that country was saying that they are a sanctuary state. And when I get there, they're going to help me get on my feet, right? Because what y'all got to understand, in a lot of these countries, I know in Colombia this exists, there's extreme classism to where there are certain spaces and jobs you cannot get. A lot of people don't have this rags to riches story over here because the way classism is set up here, just talking to somebody or having friends or being associated with somebody from a lower class than you, that could make other people around you kind of be stuck up and not want to be seen with you. Do y'all understand? Classism is major. So there's a lot of opportunities for upward mobility in the United States that I think that we take for granted. Now, is it the best? No, but it's better than most places. I'll tell you that. So I definitely understand immigrants saying, hey, the waiting list is too long to try to come legally, because it is long. It's super long, right? It's ridiculous. Even if you get like married and you're trying to get some type of, you're trying to get a spousal visa, it takes forever. It's going to take at least, it's going to take at least 15 months to a few years to even process, right? So I understand them saying, hey, I'm going to go where I have access to the US dollar. Maybe I can send it back home. It's going to quadruple in value. So I'm in no way trying to demonize people who are just trying to make a living for themselves, right? But at the same time, we have to talk about the mathematics of it, because realistically, we can't take care of everybody. You have US citizens who cannot even get help and support, or get food stamps, or get housing support, or get money put on the card. You got our homeless shelters overfilled to where our homeless people that are US citizens can't even get a spot in a homeless shelter. And then all the while, our money is being sent overseas. So y'all have to understand how this is going to cause a powder keg issue that is not solely based in xenophobia and people being racist. There are a lot of economics to it, right? And at first, I used to think, because I have to understand, I grew up in an immigrant community. Okay, my first stepdad, they came over here during the Vietnam War in the fall of Saigon. My first stepdad was Vietnamese, so they were immigrants. They were legal immigrants, though. They were refugees, asylum seekers, right? My second stepdad was from Egypt. Okay, so I grew up in a house with him. And then on top of that, I lived in a community that was about 50% Black, 50% Mexican. And most of the Mexicans that were in my community had come there illegally, right? So I grew up with these people. A lot of these people I know that have been over here since we were kids still can't get their papers, and they can't even leave the country to go see their family, or else they're not going to be able to return. And I come from that school of immigration where the Mexicans that used to come over here, they didn't get any help. They were literally over here thugging it out, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. There was no homeless shelter for them to come to. There was no rental assistance. There was none of that. So they were coming over here, living together and figuring it out, working hard, creating businesses for themselves. And I respect that. Y'all understand? So this is definitely not an anti-immigrant video. I'm making this video in hopes that we can understand that there are real issues on both sides that comes along with this. And y'all know I'm from Texas, and a lot of y'all probably saw in the news during this past presidential term that our governor Greg Abbott was like, okay, y'all claiming y'all sanctuary cities. I'm gonna make you stand on that. How about this? You gonna stand on that, because for years and years y'all have been calling red states like Arizona and Texas. Y'all been calling everybody in the state racist because we want stricter immigration policies and enforcement. Meanwhile, we're the ones that are going to have to carry the brunt of this, right? And, there's a reason why the cost of living in Texas had been low for so long. There's not as much taxes. Like, for example, we don't pay local taxes. We don't in Texas. We don't even pay state taxes. We just pay federal taxes. Do y'all understand? Like, when you on your income, you just pay federal taxes. So there's not a lot of government assistance available to the people, but you get to keep a lot of your money. Abbott stood on business, yes. And to be honest, before the sickness, we're gonna call it the plague that went around, I did not like Greg Abbott. But honestly and truly, when the plague happened and they were trying to tell us we couldn't go back to work, right? I'm glad that he let us, like, we were only on lockdown for like a month, and then he was like, whatever, y'all go back to work. And because of that, a lot of people that probably would have went out of business did not go out of business. You did have people that had to go out of business. You did have things kind of slow up, but it wasn't as bad as places like California, right? Yes, we had our incidents of homelessness go up, but still, it was nowhere near states like California and New York. Do y'all understand? So people were able to, if they so chose to, go back to work, save their businesses, and make money. So honestly and truly, during the demic, it's a lot I want to say, but during the demic, in Texas, we called it the bandemic. Do you understand? There was a lot of money in Texas at the time. And then he also stopped, he also prevented people trying to force us to get the treatment for it. Do y'all understand? So we had a choice here that in a lot of places they didn't have. So there are a lot of things I don't agree with Greg Abbott on. I don't agree with his stance on the A word, as far as women deciding whether or not they're going to keep their kids. I don't agree with that law at all. But I will say economically, we came out a lot better than most states did. With that said, we don't have the resources in Texas to take care of people who are coming here and they don't already have a support system in place. So he said, okay, y'all want to call yourself sanctuary cities? Well, guess what? You're going to have to stand on that, right? So you have the federal government, right? Because that border on Texas, that is not, the state of Texas doesn't really have any control over that. So you had the federal government allowing a flood. I mean, it was like the gates of heaven burst open, a flood of new migrants into the United States. And people speculate, have many speculations as to why that was allowed, right? I personally believe that when you allow a whole bunch of people in at one time, you're trying to hide something. You're either trying to sneak something in or you're trying to hide something. And what better cover story than you're just trying to be a good Samaritan and let all these people in? And a lot of these people, which I got to understand that this is a business. So a lot of the times the immigration starts in South America, but it's not just South Americans or Hispanic people that are coming, guys. You got people coming from India, China, and Africa. They're flying to places like Colombia, and then they're walking all the way across the border. And now they're starting to come from the northern border as well, right? Um, I don't, I I don't understand it because I'm like, well, why not just? A part of me was like, well, why not just fly and overstay your visa? But then I did my research, and for example, in Colombia, it's not easy to just go there and be a tourist. You got to do a lot to get a visa for even just a temporary stay to come visit over there. You have to prove financial stability. Do you understand? So a lot of these countries, our citizens from these countries can't just come over here and visit us for tourism and understand a visa. So they have to, and then obtain a visa. So they have to come in through the open borders, right? So Greg Abbott started busing them, and at first it was cool, right? But then we started to see some problems, and I'm gonna pull up some video footage on this so that we can talk about it. Now, in Texas, before he even started busting them, there were a lot of clubs in Dallas that were strip clubs that essentially started turning into like brothels. And you had a lot of the girls who were American citizens who may not have necessarily, who are just there to dance, or they're not there to sell their cat. Maybe they don't sell it at all, or maybe they sell it outside the club. They started, it started getting harder for them because you had these women coming from many countries in Latin America where prostitution is legal. And so you have these women coming in, and instead of just getting a lap dance for $25, a man was able to get a full experience for $25. Right? So you had the American girls who have to make a living, who a lot of them didn't want to be getting ran through every night like that. Now they're having to compete with women who are providing a full service experience for $25 or less. Or if a lap dance is $25, now you got these girls who are coming over here willing to do it for $5, right? So that was having, but that has a lot of effect on the economy, because what y'all got to understand is dancers and dope dealers, the streets kept a lot of the economy moving. Do y'all understand? Once they stop making money, we're in trouble. Africans more so are flying to Canada and crossing the Canadian border over here. Minnesota is a hot spot. I did not know that. I did not know that Minnesota was hot like that. So yeah, Texas had been kind of seeing this. Greg Abbott decided he was going to stand on business and send them to New York, right? Now, the things that I've been hearing going on in New York, I'm like, this is stuff that goes on in bad neighborhoods, and like this is South American crime. Okay, you got people who are riding those mopeds. And here, if you come to Colombia, you will see there's so many, we call them motos, right? Like so many motorcycles on the street. It's like half of the people on the street have a motorcycle, half of them have a car, right? The motorcycle is cheaper to obtain and maintain. So most people are going to have a motorcycle unless you are an upper class Colombian. And most people are doing the right things on their motorcycles. They do their Uber Rappi deliveries. They don't have like Uber delivery here, but Rappi, they do it all on motorcycles. So if you order food, it's going to get delivered in motorcycles. Well, down here, we have this saying called "no dar papaya." Basically, don't give a reason. So here, the police is underfunded. or a lot of the times they're corrupt, or a lot of the times they're just simply not going to be able to do anything if you get robbed. The Colombian people have gotten so used to it that the no data papaya is basically saying don't give a reason, because if you give a reason, it's your fault because you already know nobody's coming to help you, right? So a lot of the times you will not see Colombians walking down the street all in their phone, because they got to have their head on a swivel, making sure nobody robs them. Even in a good neighborhood, guys, I don't walk down here on my phone. As a matter of fact, when I went to Guatapé last week, I was talking to this tourist, and she was from Atlanta, Georgia. And she told me the night before she was walking down the street with her phone like this in Laureles, which is like more in the city, kind of closer. A lot of immigrants like to live there, but to me, it's a bad area compared to where I live in, right? But they like to live there because that's where a lot of the partying and stuff is at. But she walking down the street with her phone like this, a moto came through, snatched it right out her hand, right? But a lot of people don't know that you got to be on guard when you come down here. It's a wonderful country, don't get me wrong, but this is not America. Well, now you have those same type of crimes taking place in New York on the regular, crimes by motorcycle. The bros don't need a passport no more. Yeah, no, they don't need to go anywhere. Honestly and truly, if they know where to go, they can get exactly what they're looking for in the United States. The third world landed on the States. Yeah. And y'all got to understand, in a lot of these countries, selling your body is legal. In Colombia, that is legal. In Dominican Republic, that is legal. A lot of these girls start selling their bodies at 12 and 13 years old, and by the time they're like 18, they're retired. You understand? So that is a commonly cultural thing. And don't get me wrong, I feel like women should be able to, I honestly feel like it should be legal in the States, right? The problem though is people do too much and they go too far. Like, I don't want to walk down the street and see you on the stroll, baby. Like, figure out a way to do those transactions privately. I don't want to see women getting recruited in pimp. I think pimping should be illegal, but I think if a woman want to sell her body and a man want to buy it, they should be able to conduct that transaction in private. But part of the reason why I chose to live in a southern suburb municipality of Medellin, rather than living in like El Poblado where all the passport bros live, is because I don't want my daughter to come outside and see hoes barely wearing any clothes walking up and down the street, you know? And I don't think that our culture should turn into that in the United States as well. And you will be very surprised. Here in Colombia, there's a very conservative side, especially where I live, to where they don't they feel like, yes, the women should be able to do that, but they don't want to see it either, or they don't necessarily agree with it either. Do y'all understand? I'm stereotyping that a lot of Atlantans are very vain. I ain't never really too much been around people from Atlanta, so I don't know. They have been lending hotels to migrants in New York. Yes, I know. And ain't no Motel 6, nice hotels like the Row. I'm gonna put a video up soon. We're just kind of getting some initial discussion out the way. It's damn near legal. Just sign up to OnlyFans. Yeah, but they want the experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, OnlyFans is a visual representative. Like, there's plenty of girls here in Colombia who do webcam too, right? And they can have access to US dollars without even having to leave their country. But a lot of these women that are coming to the United States, and a part of it might have been like they didn't necessarily intend to be selling their bodies. It's just that they were promised jobs and they were promised all this help. Now they're here, they can't go back or don't want to go back, and they have mouths to feed. Some of these women are coming over here pregnant, getting pregnant, and I'm like, did you get pregnant along the way here? Which is possible because a lot of graping goes on along these routes. There are whole organizations that cater to the trafficking of people. They have Western unions along the way in the jungle. Like, There's a lot that goes into this. What's ironic about what you said is we do see hoes walking up and down the streets. They just aren't selling it. Well, yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like it's getting ridiculous. Like again, I feel like women should be able to do what they want or wear what they want. But some of the outfits, I'm like, ma'am, did you have to put on that see-through shirt with your like you don't even have pasties on anymore. Y'all outright showing the whole areola, and I respect the working girl more because she getting paid. Y'all just out here wearing that stuff just to be wearing it. I met a girl from Atlanta on a cruise. Every time I saw her, she was filming or taking a selfie of herself. What you thought she was doing? Oh, that's why you're saying she's vain because she was all in the mirror and all in. Yeah, I can't be around people like that. I probably would be a lot further on social media if I was doing that all the time, but I have to take breaks and do this stuff in spurts. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up a video. Give me a minute, y'all. This is by this guy called Cash Jordan here on YouTube. And this man has been on their butts. Okay. And I love the way he talks about it because he's just kind of matter of fact. It's not super propaganda y. He's just on some like, this is just a problem, point blank, period. And like, if the Dems were being honest, this is part of the reason why a lot of people that might have would have originally voted Dem are going to be voting for the orange man. I'm not saying that to degrade him. I'm just trying to talk in code, y'all. They're probably going to be voting for him. A lot of people that live in these cities are probably going to be voting for a party that is opposite for what that than what they usually vote for. Again, guys, if y'all are just now coming in, hit the like button. Okay, let me get into these comments before I get started. Just saying, I'm not surprised homegirl got her phone snatched. Yeah. And I'm like, girl, a lot of people don't do their research before they visit a new country. I'm the type of person I research any little thing I can think of. So before I moved down here, I already knew I wasn't supposed to come down here and be on my phone like that. I already knew about I hadn't seen one in my life, but I knew they existed. So I like super duper cautious. But a lot of people come visit a place and think, oh, I'm just there to have fun. But there are some things that you want to know as a tourist because you got to understand when you're coming to another country as a tourist, there are people that are looking to prey on you because they feel like, well, you're just coming in and out anyway. So any legal trouble or any legal problems, you're not going to really have time to resolve anyway. So you're an easy lick. You're an easy lick. Hey, Jamal, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Why can't you have your phone? What did I miss, girl? Yes. So basically, I was saying, and this is going on in the United States too now. In many Latin American countries, especially here in Colombia, South America, there are motorcycle crimes. Okay, we call them motos. So it is very common for people to own motorcycles here. Even people who are not criminals, about half of the cars on the road are motorcycles because it's cheap and convenient. Surprisingly, there are not that many accident. Like I don't just walk around and seeing accidents. They know how to drive with each other. I'm like, if people were riding around on this many motorcycles in the United States, it would be a complete disaster. We barely know how to drive with each other in cars, but they do pretty well. But anyway, you do have a criminal element of people who will ride around on these motorcycles looking for people who are slipping, walking around with your head buried in your cell phone, and things like that, got chains on and things like that. So they will come and snatch your phone right out of your hand on the motorcycle. And with the motorcycle, they can get in and out of places that a regular car can't get. It's so easy for them to evade the police. So 99 times out of 100, you're never getting your stuff back. And then what happens is they go resell it somewhere else. Now, one good thing I will say about Colombia, because they know that they can't really depend on the police to do anything about these type of crimes. If you steal something, for example, let's say a man is walking down the street, a guy is on foot or something, and he snatches his chain off his neck, and the dude that got his chain snatched is like, stop, he stole my chain. The whole neighborhood is gonna chase him down, and if they catch him, they're beating his ass. Everybody beating his ass, and nobody going to jail. The only way you will go to jail is if you like pull out a pew pew and try to like unalive the thief. But everybody is gonna sit around and beat your ass. I've seen it several times. I've seen it several times. So that is the only recourse that they have. Versus in the United States, if the whole neighborhood beat down a thief, everybody that beat the thief going to jail. All right, let me play this video.
¿Cómo responder? Si la respuesta es sí, en Open English
Avenue, you've got open air theft market.
To a Venezuelan gang, and a lot of them have come over within this surge of migrants from Venezuela into the United States.
So since the asylum crisis started, over 200,000 people alone have come through New York City, but they haven't been alone. And a number of gang members have entered sanctuary cities like New York, masquerading as legitimate asylum seekers. But their goals are not legitimate, and that's a big problem, not just for sanctuary cities, but also for any city or state touching one.
A notorious Venezuelan gang has...
And I need to look up the laws, like what constitutes an asylum seeker, right? And I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I need to look this up. Because, for example, here in Colombia, like you got people going to the United States illegally. But there's not really anything to seek asylum from here. I guess maybe if they're like, they got in trouble with some gang members, but I mean, if you're not involved in that life, then it's not going to touch you. A lot of times people be involving themselves in the underworld. So I'm like, what are they constituting as asylum?
Has quickly expanded.
Because other than that, it's fine over here. Okay. They do have a civil war that's going on like in the countryside in certain areas, but you could move to another part of the country and it doesn't touch you at all. And that civil war has been going on for like 20 years.
And its criminal operations into the United States, raising alarms among U.S. law enforcement officials.
Homeland Security officials tell NBC News they have more than 100 criminal investigations nationwide into TDA, calling TDA the next MS-13.
And you know, police tell us that the migrant crisis has really made this problem so much worse. Here along busy Roosevelt Avenue, not only is there increased gang activity, but also migrant women from other countries desperate to find a job.
They're more organized, they're more structured, and they're involved in so many different crimes. You name the crime, they're going to be involved in it.
It is an infestation. It's taking hold, not just in New York, it's up in Michigan. It's spreading. If people don't wake up and see it for what it is, we're going to be in a lot of trouble in this country.
Okay, y'all see that man?
It's listed as a massage, foot massage place.
The bus.
Did y'all see that man who was speaking on it? He was Hispanic. And a lot of the times, people will demonize men like that and be like, okay, well, you're going against your own race. Well, first of all, this is not just Hispanic people. This is people from all over the world. Now, when we're talking about specifically these Venezuelans, all Latin American people are, first of all, not a monolith. Let's start there. They all have their different countries, different cultures, and pride. You don't know if that his family came over here legally or did not, or clearly he's a citizen if he has the job that he has. So why does everybody expect anybody who was Latin American to say there should be a free for all in this country in regards to illegal immigration? And why can't people speak up about the negative things that are going on without being labeled as xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and racist? right? Because at the end of the day, you have other American citizens who are being affected like that. And guys, we can't come over here and run amok like that. We can't do that. We can't come over here and behave that way. They'll be so quick to. There's this American citizen over here who he had an Airbnb. You had a passport bro come over here and mess with a child. And guess what happened? Not only did they put the guy that messed with the child in jail, as they should have, the government of Colombia took that man's property for renting that Airbnb to him, for allowing that child predator. And the guy didn't even know he was here to do that. But they took his property, even though he had owned it for 10 years, and deported him, told him he got to go back. This is crazy. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I heard about Chicago. Okay, all right. California has rolled out the red carpet for asylum seekers. And again, like there are some, and I feel bad for the ones who like they really came over here to do right. Because, some people just need an opportunity. But then it's kind of like at this point, at what cost? Because there's too much going on. And the only people who got something negative to say or are trying to silence people speaking up about it are the people who don't have to live in proximity to it anyway. Right? Because I've seen on this same channel, you had liberal New Yorkers saying, oh yeah, let's be a sanctuary city and we need to show empathy and compassion. But these are the same ones who don't want migrant shelters being built in their actual neighborhoods. They want them to be built in poorer neighborhoods. So it's like the same people that will try to shame everybody else when it really comes down to be about that life, they're not with it.
Happening directly across the street from multiple schools, and Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenny says the influx of migrants is fueling the problem.
And with that, you see some gang activity.
Not only are they citywide, but they are operating inside the city's migrant shelters, like this one behind me.
Back in 2022, I lost two very important people in my life, big figures. It really wasn't until
After crossing the border, dangerous gang members are being found not just in New York, but also in neighboring New Jersey. But what nobody's talking about is that both New York and New Jersey, even though they're sanctuary states, the growing presence of gangs in either state couldn't be happening without what's going on right here in New York City, where critics say our generous right-to-shelter laws take things one step further than sanctuary status and have made us an unwilling participant in the growth of gang-related crime throughout the region. Because it's one thing to be a sanctuary city with laws that harbor federal fugitives and protect them from justice, but it's quite another to offer free housing, food, and medical care to people who say they're here for the American dream, but aren't. And it's another thing to not deny somebody access.
So if y'all don't know, New York City has right to shelter laws that were originally intended for homeless New Yorkers. So basically, if you come ask for a shelter, the city was supposed to go ahead and sponsor you. Now, in New York, it is illegal to ask for somebody's immigration status. It's illegal for the police to ask for somebody's immigration status or go look it up, right? So what ends up happening is anybody who shows up to these shelters have a right to shelter. Do y'all understand how that goes? Okay.
Access to such generosity after they're caught committing a crime, which critics say is a big problem, not just for New York City, which is unknowingly aiding a small number of people who are secretly gang members, but also for every city and town near New York, because the way crime works is once you've got a critical mass of bad guys, their evil empire will spread. A big problem in progressive areas of America with soft on crime laws that don't send people to jail for robbery or assault and prosecute criminals by protecting them, oftentimes dismissing or downgrading serious offenses like weapons charges, to the point where people who used to be in jail in other parts of the world do those same things here and just get a slap on the wrist. Which brings us to the real reason law-abiding areas of the country that border sanctuary cities are now in.
And a lot of people got upset for the stuff that DT Orange Man was saying about immigration, but it is true. I live in Latin America, guys. I live around a lot of Venezuelans, a lot of hardworking Venezuelans. Y'all understand? So here, the same problem is that's going on in the United States with the Venezuelans is going on here. All right. So you have a lot of, because they share a border. So you have a lot of Venezuelans that are over here illegally, and you have the hardworking ones who are doing rappy, and people say nothing but good things about them and say, oh, they work harder than a Colombian. Same things that they say about a lot of immigrants that come to the United States, and they say they work harder than American citizens, right? But then you have that other element that comes over here and commits crime. So you have a big anti-immigrant sentiment here in Colombia. It's the same thing.
Danger. Those sanctuary policies are no longer some cute way to rebel against seemingly unjust border security measures. Instead, they make cities like New York, Denver.
Oh, I forgot to say what I really was trying to get to is they did empty out a lot of those prisons in Venezuela. Venezuela basically collapsed, y'all. The government, the economy, everything. So yes, a lot of people did leave Venezuelan prisons and enter the United States, and we don't know what they did or why they were even in prison.
And Chicago a danger to the rest of the nation. And as you're about to see, these gangs are turning the neighbors of sanctuary cities like New York into crime-ridden no-go zones, all because of what we allow to happen right here. So here we are at the Port Authority bus terminal, and every week in New York, between 600 to 1,000 asylum seekers still arrive looking for a place to stay. Now, proponents of New York's right to shelter policies that mandate housing for families, children, and single adults are right that these policies do keep people from living on the street. But critics say these policies also allow a small number of gang members to sneak in along with legitimate asylum seekers, establish themselves, and then spread out committing crime.
So tell me, Robert, who is this group, Tren de Aragua? What kind of people are they?
They originated out of a prison, Tocorón prison in the state of Aragua in the country of Venezuela. And basically, the government official there basically told the gang leaders that you guys take over the prison. So there were no more prison guards. The Tren de Aragua gang members were actually running the prison, and then they're released from prison.
So these are like the last people that you would want getting into a place that's trying to help out legitimate folks. Some of these individuals used to be in prison, and now you've got members of the criminal underworld using New York City's generosity against it and against other cities and towns and states like New Jersey.
And if you've been around that type of criminal element, there is a truly for the ones that operate here in Colombia, like you'll hear other foreigners be like, these people are truly psychopathic. The way that they go about committing these crimes, like I gotta understand, especially if they come from situations that they were in survival mode and desperate, it's like they're soulless in the way they go about committing these crimes in a way that I don't think we understand. It's like you can feel the evil. You can feel it. Like it makes the hair on your skin stand, and the type of scams that they commit, the lengths that they will go to try to charm you just so that they can rob you or drug you. And again, this is not to paint all or even the majority of Venezuelans like that or immigrants like that. This is a real element that exists. And I think because we haven't really experienced that to the same degree, because we've been cushioned from a lot of that, people don't understand the seriousness and severity of it. It's so bad that even here in Colombia, many Colombians don't trust other Colombians, or they don't trust other Venezuelans, because you got like 40% of the people, got 60%, like the majority, who are really good, really sweethearted and have good intentions. But then you got 40% of people who are out to get what they can get from you, and they don't consider you, and they go about it in a really psychopathic and methodical way.
Jersey that touch New York City. And recently, gang members who've committed crimes in and around the New York area have been arrested, and some have even given residential addresses to authorities as shelter locations. And we're seeing this happen at sanctuary cities all across the country, not just in New York. Take, for example, Aurora, Colorado. It's not a sanctuary city, but its next one, Denver, Colorado, and criminal activity that was taking place there has now spilled out into Aurora, just like it's now spilling from New York City into New Jersey. And what's fascinating is this is all happening under the umbrella of a system that is supposed to help asylum seekers get on their feet. Yet how can the system accomplish its goal of helping the vulnerable?
Yes, I saw High Intelligent Hood Genius. Welcome to the live. I saw a lot of Chicagoans in these town halls meetings going off, and it's even like Chicagoans who are immigrants, like people who were in these town hall meetings with full-blown accents, but they came here legally, who were like, no ma'am, no sir, like what are we doing here? Going off, right? Let me see what you said. Okay. Yeah, guys, so it's a huge problem. And I don't think it's fair that people who live in cities that haven't declared themselves as sanctuary cities are having to deal with the spillover effects.
Well, if it's actually being co-opted by dangerous criminals who shouldn't be there in the first place. Obviously, that's not going to be possible, and this reveals a big problem with sanctuary cities, as they are now a scourge on their entire region because they have laws and policies that conflict with the laws of the rest of the country. Laws and policies which critics say don't protect the vulnerable from crooks, but instead protect those crooks from justice and, in some cases, deportation. And look at this map right here. This is the route that apparently these gang members are using to come into the country. They're doing it along with legitimate asylum seekers, just doing their best to blend in, where they then make their way to sanctuary cities like New York, Chicago, Denver. And what then happens is as soon as they get to these areas, they immediately start finding opportunities and places where they can commit crime. Sometimes those opportunities might not be in the city itself. Sometimes they might be just outside.
As a matter of fact, I think we're already in trouble, to be honest with you. We're already in trouble because...
Or sometimes you're the opportunity. Honestly and truly, if you're walking down the street and you got a brand new iPhone that is worth like $1,000, if they sell that iPhone for like $600, $700, whatever they need to sell it for, a lot of the times that can pay for like 6 months rent. A lot of the times y'all are walking around with electronics and laptops and things like that are worth an entire Venezuelan's salary for the year.
They've been here for a while. They're more organized, they're more structured, and they're involved in so many different crimes. You name the crime, they're going to be involved in it. You know, I'm concerned.
If there's a crime going on, this gang is going to be involved in it. That's a crazy statement. That means they really have no boundaries. And as a transnational criminal organization, these guys are up to things our country's just not prepared for. And with a critical mass of these gang members having found their way to New York, there's a whole lot they can do. The first thing they can do is grow their numbers, because here at the bus terminal, you can get cheap transportation in and out of the city whenever you want, and every week they're
Jamal, yes, they are sanctuary cities. I'm talking about places like, for example, Aurora. You know, get what I'm trying to say? Like, Aurora is not a sanctuary city, but they're having to deal with the spillover effects from Denver.
There are new potential recruits coming into the city who will soon be disenfranchised by its shelter system. And sadly, our shelter system, which is supposed to be helping people who move into it get on their feet and get plugged into our economy, it's failing in that mission. First of all, it evicts people after just 30 days, which isn't enough time for some people who've just come here to get established and get a job.
And it makes absolutely no sense. It's like, okay, y'all are evicting people to bring in the new people, and the people that have been here don't already have like a place to stay and housing and things of that nature. So it's like y'all just pumping people through the system at this point. And I remember at one point at the beginning of the year, we thought there was going to be a civil war at the border in Texas because Greg Abbott, he even got tired of the busing. He was like, you know what? We're just going to close our border. And Texas people have a very, we used to be our own country mindset. Yes, I know that technically we cannot succeed. Yes, we know this, but like, when did we ever care? So our governor has this mindset of, this is our state, this is our border, and if you don't if you don't want to do anything about it, then we have every right to, because me as the governor have a responsibility to protect my state, period. So they were putting barbed wire down. Joe Biden was telling me he needs to cut it down. You had all kind of people coming down into Texas to guard the border. Like, it was a thing. We thought it was going to come to blows,
often leading to those folks pitching tents and just camping out in the parks and streets nearby where those shelters are located. And although New York City's ability to house the entire world in shelters for an unlimited period of time is probably non-existent, this system of failure gives gangs a visual example that they can point to and say, see, look, this is the poverty that you'll experience if you don't join up with us. And if that doesn't work, apparently these gangs are also resorting to intimidation tactics, telling asylum seekers that if they don't join up with them, they will be branded as enemies of the gang. And who wants that, especially in a city that's invited you into its shelters?
And that's why I think that we should have some empathy, because it's like, not only are Native American citizens being terrorized by these people, immigrants are being terrorized by them as well. And a lot of them probably left. Like, if you think about the social collapse that Venezuela had, like, a lot of these people probably left to get away from that. And they came with their kids. And it's like, dang, I'm trying to get out of your way. Y'all done followed us here. And I still got to deal with the same BS. And there's no recourse here, because if you get taken to jail, you're just going to get let right back out. So they don't even have a choice a lot of the times.
Saying that they'll take care of you and then evict you in just 30 days. A lot of these people feel like they're on their own, and they are. And before we get into the types of crimes that are now being committed in areas near New York City, it's important to understand that none of this could happen without our failing shelter apparatus. And as long as that apparatus exists, this situation, these gangs will continue to be enabled in the worst way possible. And the worst thing about all of this is these shelters were supposed to be temporary. They were only supposed to be needed just by each person for a few weeks. That's it. Yet it now appears our shelter industrial complex wants to exist forever. And for that reason, the immigration magnet critics say that it will continue, and there will always be people coming here looking to access it, not knowing that the whole situation is a gigantic trap, because the same people moving into these facilities.
And New York is looking dirty and nasty. Like, I have friends in New York who, like, every time I talk to them, they talk about how funky it is, how pissy it smells. And like, here in Colombia, it's not as dirty as New York. And that's what I'm saying. People be like, oh, these are third world countries. Like, I promise you, if you get on if you get on the metro system here in Colombia, you're not going to smell urine. People smell good. They smell like they bathed. You're not going to see a whole bunch of crazy people on the metro system. You can't even bring your food and drinks onto the metro system and eat on there. It's super clean. They do have police present there on the metro system, but the same cannot be said for New York's metro system.
Facilities are leaving them in no better shape than they were when they got there initially. And this is particularly astonishing when you look at how things affect asylum seekers from Venezuela. Many of these folks have been granted a humanitarian designation called temporary protected status, which allows them to get work authorization not in the usual 180-day waiting period, but in as little as 30 days. Yet we still have mass unemployment, revealing that our job economy hasn't connected as many asylum seekers with full-time employment where they can work on their own as many.
Because we don't have enough jobs. I mean, for example, I noticed, because before I came here, I was teaching and then I would do Uber on the side, right? And I started noticing that the amount of calls that were coming in, and I did the deliveries. So I started noticing that I just had to wait a long time in between getting a job or a delivery. And then I realized, like, every time I'm going to go pick up my food, there's also other Uber Eats drivers who don't speak any English at all. So it's like people who are American citizens who used to be able to use these jobs as side hustles. Now it's not as lucrative anymore because the market is flooded with people who that's probably the only thing they can do while they're here. Also, if you came over here trying to get a job working construction, well, the housing market is terrible. Let's start there, right? And there are already people over here that been doing that. If you're coming over here thinking that you're gonna clean houses for a living, I mean, I guess you could. You know, people will pay you under the table. But again, there were already people here doing that, and those are luxury services that people will cut out when they're on hard times. So my point is, a lot of Americans don't even have the money to spend for these services or these self-employed businesses that a lot of these immigrants used to be able to come over here and do, right? A lot of U.S. citizens can't get a job. A lot of U.S. citizens can't get a job at a fast food restaurant now.
Many people, including asylum seekers, were led to believe it would. And now people getting off buses and entering our city thinking that they're about to achieve the American dream are achieving something else. And in some cases, they're being fed right to the lions, these gang members, so to speak.
Once thought to be limited to Latin America, where it was known for brutal tactics and extensive.
Okay, I'm going to hit the pause on this. Yes, y'all, please hit the like button if you're coming in. I've been to New York twice and it's dirty, rash. Just yeah, oh my God, y'all. I seen that's another reason why I live in the part of Colombia that I do. So there's this part of Colombia, Medellin, right? It's like split into municipalities, and then there are barrios within those municipalities. So most of the immigrants like to either go stay in El Poblado, which is like the Beverly Hills of Medellin, right? That is where you're going to be the most, like, it's still walkable, but it's pretty isolated. You have to have money to live over there. Now, with that said, a lot of robberies and crimes dealing with working women goes on. Like, most foreigners that get unalived over here are going to get unalived in that area, even though it's really nice, right? Then you have another part called Laureles. So all the other immigrants, they were like, well, why don't you like live in Laureles? You know, why are you over there in Envigado? Because I guess they have it in their mind that there's nothing to do over here, even though they've never lived over here. So I don't know. I think it just has a lot of hype, but so I rented an Airbnb out over there for like a week just to see how it was. And there were, first of all, they didn't manage their trash as properly as where I live now. Like there's no trash and stuff on the street. And then there were these big fat rats that would come out at night. And I tell the other immigrants, you don't see this rat? Oh, I've never seen a rat over here. I see it. I see these rats. Like, are y'all not paying attention? We all walking down the street. And it stink over here. It smell nasty. So I can only imagine how it is in New York. So I moved over here. To me, there's a lot to do over here. As long as you like, if you're here for the right reasons and you're here to raise your kids, everything is walkable. There's good food to eat. There's a mall. There's a movie theater. They got little nightclubs, restaurants. Like, I'm not going to be living over here with the rats just so that I can say I live in a popular part of town. Are you crazy? The Department of New York is planning on making birth control for rats due to the increase of rats, as they should, because I couldn't imagine living around that.
Criminal networks, Tren de Aragua has evolved into a significant transnational threat, a growing concern for U.S. law enforcement. Originating in a Venezuelan prison.
So these gangs, it's important to understand, once they get inside the country, you only need 1 or 2 members, but then they can start recruiting. And once they grow their criminal empire, then they can spread it out and start committing crime in other places.
And then what y'all gotta know is Latin American gangs, they hit a little different than gangs from the United States. Like in Colombia, they went to war with the Colombian government at one point. Do y'all understand? Like when you go back and think of the days of Pablo Escobar, them people aren't scared of the government. Okay. So they already come over here with a different mentality. they're not as afraid of law enforcement as a gang member in a gang in the United States is. Y'all understand? Because they already feel like this. Either we can outgun you, or we can always have some of your people on payroll. That's what they're used to. And if it really come down to it, y'all gotta understand these people are really about that life. You know?
Places, which is what we're now seeing. That's the second thing they can do. And New Jersey is now one of 8 states where gang-related crime activity is up. And the problem here is that a lot of the issues New York City is causing for itself locally are no longer local problems. They're being exported to places that have no.
I will say that too. Yeah, you're right, Jamal. They are a different here. Well, okay, so it's complicated, right? Because you do have certain places and you have certain cities in the United States that have been infiltrated by the cartels already, right? You have certain people that are on city councils who are already in the pocket of cartels, right? Now, what I will say is if the feds decided they wanted to actually do something about the cartels, they could, but I think we underestimate how deep that influence goes. And again, these people are cutthroat when they want what they want. There's a reason why all this stuff has been able to get into the country for years and years and years, and we haven't been able to stop it. Do y'all understand?
Nothing to do with our rules, have nothing to do with our sanctuary city status.
I'm gonna put it to you this way. If the US government really decided that they was gonna crack down on all of this, you'd have to accept the fact that a lot of neighborhoods would be like war zones, because these people are not just gonna take their sentence lightly and go to jail. Like that's not how that works.
Or our right to shelter, all of which exist to solve problems and fix societal injustices, but are now less just than they started out being because they enable fugitives and gang members to hide in plain sight. So what's crazy about this is this whole idea of sanctuary cities. They failed as an idea if they're now harboring criminals and exporting that crime outside of their borders. That's a big issue because now they're causing problems in places where people can't vote on whether or not those sanctuary city laws or policies should change. That's an issue. And the growth of these gangs and the problems they cause are showing no signs of slowing down.
This video of armed men roaming an apartment complex in Aurora last month went viral. It was captured by Cindy Romero's security camera.
This was terrifying, and I don't wish it on anybody.
She says the nightly violence forced her to move.
It was never meant to be.
So this example in Aurora, Colorado, it's so fitting because that city doesn't control the policies of Denver, the larger sanctuary city nearby it, which some say is the source of the criminal activity that took over those apartment buildings. There's doubt as to whether or not this gang would have set up shop there if they hadn't already been in the area. And look at this. Now, millions of dollars are being poured into local law enforcement there. That's crazy, all because of policies nearby that are negatively affecting them. And this is happening because of a system that was set up to benefit vulnerable people who might be unjustly treated by our immigration systems in America. That's why you have a sanctuary city. But how much help are those vulnerable people getting if the same gangs they fled are now taking up residence all across this country? And critics are saying all these laws have done is take what is supposed to be a safe space for everybody, a law-abiding city, and turn it into a safe place for criminals, some of whom were in prison at one point recently, but now will never be deported because they're in a place that doesn't do that. And take a look at what this is doing to middle-class neighborhoods throughout our country, not just in New York, but outside of it.
And police tell us that the
well, and then
migrant
here's the
crisis has
thing.
really made this.
The only people that really get deported, if you just try to round everybody up and deport them, because I don't necessarily think that is the solution to just randomly round up all immigrants and try to send them back to their countries. Most of the time, the only people that really end up getting deported are the immigrants who are coming over here and they're like living in poverty, or they're struggling to make ends meet, or they don't have a lot of money, the ones that got bans on top of bans on top of bans, they're not getting deported. They're paying off immigration. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I already know how that goes. When them dope boys used to get that been over here since they were 2 and 3, and they used to get arrested by immigration because they would be driving drunk and doing stupid stuff, get arrested for a DUI. Now you in trouble with immigration. They just pay like $10,000. All bans will make all that go away.
Problem so much worse here along busy Roosevelt Avenue. Not only is there increased gang activity, but also migrant women from other countries desperate to find a job.
We say no more, and we're going to shut you down.
That's the promise from officers raiding this Roosevelt Avenue massage parlor.
Reporting to the
So that right there, that's Roosevelt Avenue in Queens, a working class neighborhood in New York City, which gets no help from the city as far as crime prevention goes. There are not enough police up there. There are not enough city resources to deal with the overflow of just lawlessness that's taking over that part of town. And most of the crime that we're hearing about from these gangs, it's not taking place where the rich live. This is hurting your average Americans. This is hurting your working class New Yorkers, your working class people in New Jersey and in Aurora, Colorado. And it's turning these places into the wild, wild west. Right now on Roosevelt Avenue, you've got open air theft markets where people just sell stuff that they stole from stores on Roosevelt Avenue. And the city just will not divert police resources over there to put a stop to all of this. And some of this gang...
I will see that in Dallas. You be driving down the street and you got people who, again, they're trying to make their money, but you got to understand they're taking from another business. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times it's not just big businesses they're stealing from. It'll be people who own smaller convenience stores, but they be posted up on the side of the road in their truck selling laundry detergent and washing powder and all that, and probably just blocks away from where they took it from. I knew a girl, and this ain't even an immigrant, okay? Because this ain't just immigrants that do this. This is just hood crime, right? I used to go get my hair done at this beauty shop called Real Hair in Dallas. If y'all know Jonathan Wright, who was on Bad Boys, the one to be beating up everybody, he used to work in that shop, right? So anyway, that shop used to be lit. Everybody used to come in there. You would get the Mexican dudes who would come in there selling their fruit. I would buy. Okay, I support that because they be at home chopping that fruit up and all that. Hey, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna eat it. Then you get the boosters. Okay, and these were African American people. They would go to Redbird Mall across the street, steal stuff, come sell it at the beauty supply, or they'd go to the dollar store that was literally a couple feet from the beauty salon, steal soap, sheets, candles, all kind of stuff, walk out of there and come to the beauty supplies. Come to the beauty shop and sell their stuff. So these are like hood crimes, y'all.
Gang-related crime was taking place across the street from an elementary school of all places. That's ridiculous. You've got little kids that have to walk by this stuff that's taking place in their own neighborhood and see it and witness it. That's terrible. But the problems New York is experiencing aren't just because it's a sanctuary city. It's because this is a sanctuary city where criminals can do things and never get sent to jail. If this was the kind of city that put people in jail for stealing things, you wouldn't have open air theft markets. And if people weren't getting away with selling things on the side of the street, they might not sell illegal things on the side of the street or start illegal businesses. And by tolerating a certain level of lawlessness at all times, we've enabled these gangs to grow and establish themselves and get resources and then use those resources elsewhere.
So one of the issues that law enforcement are facing in some of these areas where this gang has been present, sanctuary city laws. That's because ICE cannot be involved. DHS, though, did kick out an alert to agents with information on how to spot Tren de Aragua gang members. So look at these tattoos here.
So really, you've just got this dynamic duo of bad policies in a sanctuary city. If somebody does something wrong, they're covered in gang tattoos and the police arrest them. Not only do they often get released if it's a progressive jurisdiction, but that person, they have a...
What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? If you're checking your phone, stop that. Instead, try this technique from the mind science pioneer, Jose.
gang tattoo right here, some sort of symbol, and the police say, you know what, that looks like something, they can't check to see if that person's wanted by federal immigration authorities. They have to keep it a secret because immigration status doesn't matter in a sanctuary.
And what's so ridiculous about this is all throughout New York, we're blanketed with signs talking about how bad it is to have an illegal weapon. Yet when we catch people with these things, we release them, or the charges get dismissed or dropped.
And if you're a dangerous gang member, think of how much this benefits.
Y'all remember when people in New York, New Yorkers, citizens, used to go to jail for getting caught with a gat? You know, I'm trying not to say the word. He done set it all up and through the video. But remember when that used to be like a really serious offense? Like I can't count the amount of New Yorkers who were carrying weapons around, and a lot of them just purely for protection, who got caught up in charges and went away to jail for a long time. And now you have them catching people who are actually like criminals who have these weapons and releasing them the next day. That's insane.
You. Not only are we willing to protect you here from federal immigration authorities, we also protect you from the consequences of basically anything. What criminal isn't going to love that and use an opportunity like that to their advantage, even if they stumble upon it by accident? After coming here, knowing that it was a sanctuary, not knowing that we don't lock people up.
The bust happening directly across the street from multiple schools, and Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenny says the influx of migrants is fueling the problem.
And with that, you see some gang activity, and in that gang activity.
So the vast majority of asylum seekers, they didn't come here to be criminals. They didn't come here to join a gang. But the problem is, by allowing lawlessness, just a few people, a small number of criminals, they can have a big impact on a neighborhood and totally ruin it. And that's what we're looking at in many different places right now. And it's not like these gang members are legal analysts who've done tons of research before coming here. No, they get here and they commit crime and they find out that there are no consequences. So what do? They steal something from a store. They assume, hey, I can do it again. They steal more expensive things from a more expensive store. And then they say to themselves, gee, I could probably do that again. And after they do enough things wrong, they realize that there really aren't any limits. They'd have to do something really, really bad. And as long as they don't do that, they'll be out here on the streets with the rest of us for a long time. And the craziest thing about all of this is no sanctuary city seems to be having second thoughts about that status. All of these places seem perfectly okay with what's happening inside of them. Nobody really wants to redo any of that or rethink any of that. And
well, I've seen Mayor Eric Adams try to speak up. That's why they're coming for him now. Y'all know he got those charges filed against him now. With that said, I'm not saying that he didn't do what they're accusing him of. I'm just saying, y'all know he was buddy with Diddy. What I'm saying is, I don't think they would be coming for him about it if he hadn't been speaking up against the migrant crisis. And that's why I'm saying something is not right. You know what I'm trying to say? Considering all that's going on, something is not right. And I think it has to do with a lot of what y'all are talking about in the comment section. And then what they do is they use the Dems to try to virtue signal. It's all playing on our feelings and our sentiment. With that said, I want to reiterate, I do not think that people who are already here, especially if they're here and they're trying to do the right thing, I don't think that we should round them up and send them back to their country. I can't imagine what a lot of these people had to go through just to get here along the way. Imagine how many women had to sell their bodies because it's expensive to make it through that path to get here to North America. I'm sure a lot of those people didn't have the money. So imagine how many people paid with their bodies just to get here. And I would hate for them to get deported just to feel like it was all in vain. You know, some people did even more nefarious things like sell their own kids. Like, it's just, I don't think we understand how desperate the situation was for a lot of people. But with that said, I do feel like we can't use our empathy and our sympathy for these people who have been through all this stuff to suppress logic, right? The criminal elements do need to be dealt with, period. Yes, we absolutely should be rounding up the criminals and deporting them or prosecuting them and getting them up off of the street. so that they're not terrorizing their own immigrant community and the rest of us. And another thing we need to stop doing so that people don't feel like this is the place they need to flood into, stop advertising that we're giving all this aid and assistance, especially when the American people are not getting that. And I think that's another thing that Dems are dismissing. That's why people are pissed off at them. And it's like, if you speak up about it, then you are racist. It's all this virtue signaling and shaming, you know, by people who don't even live around it. There are areas here in Colombia, like orphanages, where the kids got taken from their parents because their parents were trying to sell them. If you go to Cartagena, the mayor had to like make a rule: no kids are allowed in the walled city after a certain time, because people would send their children there where people are. There's all type. There are women selling their bodies. There are people doing you know, all type of powder. And then of course you have your grown people who are out doing grown people things, just out listening to music, drinking, having a good time. And you'd have all these kids on the street begging. I remember there was a little boy who would go there every night, right? And he would drive his sister in a wheelchair. The sister's in a wheelchair and they drive around begging for money. And both of these kids were under 10 years old.
On top of that, here in New York, we're still continuing with our right to shelter system, which is now a revolving door system, evicting single adults after 30 days, families after 60 days, barring them from getting back into shelters, which weren't able to do their job, which is supposed to be to get people on their feet and help them plug in to society. Is that what's creating an environment that's perfect for these gangs to recruit people, to constantly have new members? And our sanctuary city policies, what allows them to not only create havoc in those cities, but also now outside of them, because after they do something wrong in, say, New Jersey, they can come back to New York and hide out where nothing is going to happen to them and no one will catch them. Let me know what you think about that. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, let me tell y'all, I had an incident where I was at a grocery store here in Colombia. This was the other day, right? And I paid for some groceries. I paid about $65 for the groceries. The dude at the cash register, I don't know what the hell he did, but for whatever reason, he told me that the transaction didn't go through. So, of course, I checked my bank account right there immediately, and it does. It says that the funds have been deducted from my account from that store for that amount. And I show him, and I show the lady at the boss, the manager, right? They're both telling me, no, it didn't go through. I'm showing you the proof that it did. Oh, well, if it went through, our cash register would have opened and a receipt would have shown. And they pissed me off so bad because they were trying to get me to pay for the groceries twice. But like, I had to be the one to like remain calm. And I saw that people were looking at me. But because I know here the immigration laws are strict, I wasn't trying to deal with the police. I wasn't trying to deal with any security. I said, I'm going to go on about my business and I'm going to just file a complaint with my bank and I'm going to get my money back, period. Right? Which is what happened. But I said that to say, people being afraid that they're going to get deported is a deterrent, right? Even for me, even though I was in the right in that situation, I don't want to put myself on anybody's radar to where I end up getting deported, because at the end of the day, I'm a guest in this country, right? And 9 times out of 10, Colombians are going to have other Colombians back. Or I don't know if people already have, I might call the police and they already have a negative perception of American citizens. And even though I'm in the right, it not go my way. Y'all understand? But when you have people who know they're absolutely not going to get in trouble or deported for the things that they do, they are going to wreak havoc. Meanwhile, you have people who come over here illegally, who come over here legally, that are more afraid to cut up because there's a paper trail on them. So yeah, again, I just want to be very clear, guys. I'm not on here to like cause any anti-immigrant sentiment. I'm hoping that everybody watching me is fair and balanced and that you understand we can absolutely deal with the criminal element without uh without turning our anger against people who came over here because they were promised certain things. With that said, that also doesn't mean that we should allow people to continue, flooding through our borders. Now, people are already here. There's not much that we can do about that. And I just say let them assimilate into society at this point. But we absolutely can stop the bleeding, and we can absolutely prevent these cities from advertising that they have all these free social services available, because they don't even have that to give to American citizens. Why are y'all advertising this to people around the world? So, and that's what I'm saying. Something is not right here. Okay, there is some type of agenda. I'm not sure of it. I can only speculate, but I don't really know. Okay. Um, with that said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here because I am hungry. Again, guys, if you need any type of coaching, you're going through something, a breakup, bad relationship, you think somebody running game on you and you need some advice, hit me up at thepassportsis@gmail.com. I got you. I'm doing $30 an hour coaching sessions. See, I ain't hitting you over the head. With that said, thank you for everybody who did show up. Please make sure that y'all hit the like button on your way out. I will see y'all here tomorrow at the same time. Yes, and thank you so much for being an awesome mod, Skinny Boy. All right. Y'all have a great day.